On today's show, we give you the latest update on Nico Harrison. Plus, the Mavericks must fix this two glaring issues that I've seen through the Mavericks' first 3 games here in the 2025 season. Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. Jeffrey Cooperstein here with you guys. Hope everyone's enjoying their week so far. It's Monday. No one likes Mondays, but the Mavericks do play tonight, so we'll get into that on the back end of today's show as well. Get us started, though, in the comment section here on today's show. Grade the Mavericks through 3 games, obviously, off to a 1-2 start. Losses to the Spurs and Wizards, but a big win last night as well. So grade the Mavericks through 3 games, A, B, C, D, or F down there in the comment section. The latest on Nico Harrison, and this report, both of these reports we're going to get to kind of stem from the Mavericks' first 2 losses, which were frankly really bad. Now, they did look pretty good, especially in the second half last night against Toronto, but Mavericks fans were apoplectic. They were pissed off after these first 2 games, and the Fire Nico chants at the American Airlines Center were absolutely raining down through 2 games. But Nico is not going anywhere, as Patrick Dumont still supports Nico Harrison as GM of the Dallas Mavericks, and he gave his reasoning to Marc Stein, which we'll get into here momentarily. Harrison does have 2 years left on his contract, so that is the starting point here, is even if the Mavericks wanted to fire him, they'd have to pay him out through the rest of his contract anyways. But it sounds like that the owner still retains faith in Nico Harrison, and he told Marc Stein basically, he didn't tell Marc Stein, but Stein is reporting that the reason why Patrick Dumont still has faith in Harrison is because he is also the guy that signed off on the trade. Here's the exact quote from what Stein had to say. And if you haven't already, please go follow Marc Stein's Substack. He's absolutely fantastic. He says, Dumont's support for his GM has stemmed largely from the fact that he is the one who ultimately signed off on Harrison's little-known plan to trade Luka Dončić. So basically what we're saying here is Dumont is just as culpable as Nico? ? Like, it feels like Dumont is just not willing to admit his mistakes and not admit the franchise mistakes and just move on from what they've done. It sounds like they're just trying to dig in and try to get themselves out of the hole, which I guess is somewhat respectable in the aspect that they realize that they're the ones that are responsible for this and they have to see it out. So that makes sense to me, in my opinion. But for those that want Nico Harrison fired, it's just not going to happen anytime soon. So don't hold your breath. And my kind of response to this is, isn't this lovely? Like, we're stuck with Nico for at least the next 2 seasons, and we'll see what happens after that. It would be pretty surprising if he was here beyond this current contract that he has. Multiple reasons. Number one, Nico basically said right after he made the trade that he was not in this job for the long term, and he said that he would be gone probably in the next 3 to 4 years anyways. He himself admitted that. On top of the fact that Tim McMahon of ESPN is reporting that there has been no extension discussions with Dumont and Nico Harrison regarding his contract, which again has 2 years left on it. So it sounds like that for the next 2 seasons, at least through 2027, Harrison will be the GM of the Dallas Mavericks. But it sounds like after that, the Mavericks could be looking for a new president of basketball operations and someone to lead this team into the future. And at the end of the day, I've kind of just come to grips with the fact that Nico's going to be here through next season, whether we like it or not, and frankly, whether he deserves it or not. Like, you can argue that the team he put together, which was supposed to be predicated all on defense, has not been very good. In fact, it's been horrendous on that end of the floor. And we're going to talk about some very alarming trends with the Mavericks here in just a moment. But, man, this roster, and again, it is 3 games. They still have 79 of these things left. So let's see how the season plays out. Let's see how this team comes together. Let's see what it looks like when Kyrie comes back. All of those are super valid. But you're going to be stuck with Nico through at least the next 2 seasons, so you might as well come to grips with it right now. But I do like asking this weigh-in because it's one of my favorite things about Mavericks fans and the debate between whether firing or keeping Nico. Should the Mavs fire Nico Harrison? Type F for fire or type K for keep down in the comment section. If you've watched the show, if you follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Coop27, by the way, you would know how I feel about this, but this will be the pin poll on today's show. So go on down there, get your votes in, fire or keep. Coming up, defense wins championships. That's what Nico Harrison told us after he made the trade. We're going to get into some really alarming trends surrounding the Dallas Mavericks defense and the offense as well, for that matter. We'll do that in just a moment, but before we do, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, and shout out to Prize Picks, man. Prize Picks is the best place to play in over 45 states, including California, Georgia, and Texas. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. One of my favorite features on Prize Picks right now is they now offer stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more on Cooper Flagg's points, rebounds, and assists, you can do that only on Prize Picks. And you can also follow other players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. I do have a Monday night football projection between the Commanders and the Chiefs. I'm going to take the more on Matt Gay field goals made, the less on Patrick Mahomes passing yards, and the more on Rashee Rice receiving yards. You can copy my picks or make picks of your own. Just please make sure you do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. The Mavs defense has been absolutely abysmal through 3 games. And I to be honest, did I expect perfection out of them? No. Did I expect them to be this bad? Absolutely no, I did not. The Mavs defense is really concerning, and if this trend continues, they will not be a playoff team this year, and I think that's pretty plain and simple. Through 3 games, the Mavericks have allowed almost 124 points a game. Gave up 125 to the Spurs, 117 to the Wizards, including Keyshawn Johnson's career night, who, by the way, I actually think is a pretty good player. But it's funny that the Mavericks always have – there's always a guy who is just a guy who always goes off against the Mavericks. It was Keyshawn Johnson for the Washington Wizards, and it was Sandru Mamukelashvili for the Toronto Raptors. It's always a random every night. And last night, yeah, the Mavericks did end up winning against the Toronto Raptors, but they gave up 129 points. They gave up 66 in the first half, and so do the quick math there. They gave up less in the second half, but they still gave up almost 130 points. And if this team wants any chance to contend in the Western Conference, it just has to be better. Their defensive rating ranks 19th in the NBA, which is a little surprising that it's that high, and they're kind of at the back of the middle of the pack there. But man, they just haven't been good enough. In order for this team to be successful, they have to be top 10 in essentially every defensive category, in my opinion, for them to be a team that is taken seriously. And we'll find out quickly tonight how good they are against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are one of the best offensive teams in the NBA, obviously. Look, the trend simply cannot continue if the Mavericks want to be a serious basketball team this season. And I think Jason Kidd knows that, Anthony Davis knows that, the team leaders know that, and it has to change here rather soon. The defense has not been good, and you know what else hasn't been good? They have just not taken care of the basketball, and this absolutely goes hand in hand with the defense giving up a bunch of points. If you're going to turn the ball over this many times, 16 versus Spurs, 21 versus the Wiz, and 20 versus the Raptors, you are not going to win basketball games because you're basically giving up 3 points in transition. And yeah, so the turnovers aren't all because the Mavericks have a bad defense. It's because they're not taking care of the basketball on the offensive end, and they're allowing plenty of fast break opportunities for the other team. And this is what happens when you don't have a real point guard playing every single night. When you have Cooper Flagg playing point guard, who has played 3 games of point guard in his entire career now, that's what's going to happen. You're going to turn the ball over. You're going to give up points in transition, and thus you're going to give up more points than you probably would. And so it's all connected. The Mavericks have to play complementary basketball. You always talk about in football how you need to play complementary football. The offense has to have time of possession. They have to be able to keep the defense off the field. The special teams has to be able to flip the field. The Mavericks are not playing complementary basketball right now, and they have to get back to doing that if they want to be successful. It's going to be hard tonight as well against the San Antonio Spurs. But one trend that I do want to continue, and I want to, have it keep going, is D'Angelo Russell, who had a really solid game last night. Well, he had a solid second half of the game last night after starting 0 for 7. When he was 0 for 7, he was 2 for 24 on the season shooting. He had a disastrous first 2.5 games, but really, really got it together late in the second quarter through the rest of the game last through the rest of the game last night, it was really, really good for the Mavericks. In 29 minutes, he had 24 points, 6 assists, 5 boards, and 8 of 18 from the field, 2 of 7 from 3. I really like D'Angelo Russell, and I think that the Mavericks just need to use him in the most effective way. What is the most effective way? They're still trying to figure that out. Should he be in the starting lineup? Should he come off the bench? I think he should be in the starting lineup, and I don't think there's really any debate about that. But the Mavericks are hell-bent on playing this big, huge, massive lineup that they're going to at least continue playing for the next few games or so. D'Angelo is best when he is aggressive, when he is attacking the rim, and when he is spacing out the defense by knocking down threes. I think that can be said for multiple players on the Mavericks roster too. Like Najee Marshall had his best game of the season last night. He was attacking the rim. And when Najee attacks the rim, it just opens up everything else. Like the more paint touches you get, the more effective this Mavericks offense is going to be. They need D'Angelo Russell to stay aggressive. He is an important player for this team. He just has to be more consistent with how he plays. You can't have the first 2 games. Well, D'Angelo Russell didn't even play in the second half of the second game of the season against the Wizards. But if the Mavericks can get that performance that we got last night against the Raptors, if they can get that more and more often, I think D'Angelo will be just fine in a Mavericks uniform. And it's just the duality of man. Of course, I tweeted in the beginning of the second quarter that D'Angelo Russell is an unserious basketball player. And then he goes on to score 24 points because I believe I tweeted that right after he was 0 of 7. And so maybe I was just the jinx there and I got D'Angelo Russell going. So I'll take credit for that. Shout out to you, D'Angelo Russell. The Mavericks do have a big one tonight, though, against the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. This one at the American Airlines Center, a 7:30 p.m., really 7:40 p.m. Central Time tip-off. The Thunder have not lost a game yet, going 3-0. They beat the Hawks on Saturday night. I'll be in the building at the AAC as well, so if you see me, come and say what's up, and we'll chop it up about the Mavericks. So big one tonight. It's a true test to see if this defense can really get its shit together and if they can take care of the basketball. OKC, let me tell you this right now, those guards are going to put pressure on the Mavericks ball tonight, bringing it up the court, and they are going to force some turnovers. So we'll see what happens, but the Mavericks really have to take care of the basketball tonight if they want any chance of upsetting the defending champs. Before we get on out of here, let me ask you guys this question. What is your biggest concern with the Mavericks right now? Is it the defense? Is it the turnovers? Is it the lack of point guard? Let me know down in the comments what your biggest concern with the Mavericks is through 3 games of the season. That will do it for today's show, guys. Appreciate you for tuning in to Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. We will have a watch party on Wednesday against Rick Carlisle and the Indiana Pacers, so stay tuned for that. And, of course, if anything happens regarding the Dallas Mavericks, regarding Nico Harrison, we will have you up to date right here on the channel. So hit that sub button, and we'll see you guys soon.